To watch someone who is visibly pregnant sort of take deep breaths at times, she's keeping her cool. Honestly, she didn't cry or anything like that. Obviously, early on in the testimony, there were some things that had her in tears.
She sent somebody through somebody else to try to get in contact with me, telling me enough is enough.
Literally just leaving the federal courthouse. Lots happened today. The big thing is there is still no jury.
The Sean Diddy Combs case almost complete. Prosecutors are preparing for opening arguments on Monday, but they admit there's a snag. One of their key witnesses against the rapper appears to have gone missing. This comes as we learn that Combs' ex-girlfriend, who was seen on video being assaulted by the rapper, is pregnant. Here's Les Trent.
Is a key witness in the Sean Diddy Combs trial backing out? Victim number 3, as she's called, was set to testify against the music mogul. The name of victim number 3 was going to be revealed when she took the stand, but the woman has apparently gone missing, and prosecutors say they've been unable to reach her.
People just get nervous, and this person could just be nervous and just has had second thoughts.
If the prosecutor can't find this witness, how might it affect the case?
Look, I don't think it's going to have a tremendous effect. The prosecution is going to call a number of alleged victims. So look, this is just one less.
Someone else is also getting cold feet. A juror sent an email to the judge asking to be removed from the panel for issues of personal.
R&B singer Cassie was pressed to read aloud her own explicit messages to her ex-boyfriend in federal court Thursday, including texts that showed her expressing a desire for the drug-fueled Group S she previously testified left her traumatized.
It's hard to put into words how honored I have been to represent Cassie Ventura. Since we filed her civil complaint in November of 2023, she has shown such great courage and bravery for stepping forward, and she has now testified throughout this entire week. She's done so under the most difficult of circumstances, just about to give birth to her third child, and under some very difficult circumstances because of the subject matter of what she testified to. Putting that aside, she was able to do so poignantly. She was able to do so graciously, and it's a real testament to who she is and the support that she has. I have a statement from her, and I also have a statement from her husband, which I'll read in a moment.
Lawyers for Diddy sought to portray Cassie to the jury as a willing and eager participant in the music mogul's SUES lifestyle.
If the prosecutor's claims are true, this seems like pretty much textbook witness tampering, right? I mean, it appears to be an effort to either, in some cases, intimidate witnesses from testifying against him, or there have been other reports of sort of inducing people to make statements in his defense. There was some allegation that in one instance this was a statement that he, in essence, dictated or drafted with a woman who made a statement that was attempting to rebut one of the accusers, I believe, in a civil case against him. I mean, witness tampering is bad. The things that Sean Combs is accused of are terrible. He pleads his innocence. The justice system will presumably work its way through.
It is likely that there is some underlying truth to at least some of the allegations. There might be a lot of underlying truth to a lot of the allegations. There's probably some bandwagoning going on. We spoke to an attorney who's for one of the victims, alleged victims of Diddy a few weeks ago. I believe Amber Nomiki and I did. And they said they had calls, they had information, they had people, hundreds of them, come forward. They're not going to represent all of them. They're, which ones have evidence that can be compelling? What are the best cases to bring that? I also saw a story in the New York Post. This is from a week ago about Diddy stuff that I wanted to read the headline of. Woman claims she saw minors dressed as Harajuku Barbies at Sean Diddy Combs' freak-off parties, what he was describing there to Conan some years ago. Said these were sex-fueled parties with what she initially thought were little people dressed as Japanese Barbies. And she said, this is her talking to TMZ, are those midgets? And she actually thinks they were kids dressed up in sex.
Oh, gross.
So again, that's just from someone who provided this information to TMZ for a documentary. But
over the past 5 days, the world has gotten to witness the strength and bravery of my wife, freeing herself of her past. There has been speculation online surrounding how it must feel for me to sit there and listen to my wife's testimony. I have felt so many things sitting there. I have felt tremendous pride and overwhelming love for Cass. I have felt profound anger that she has been subjected to sitting in front of a person who tried to break her. So, to him and all of those who helped him along the way, please know this. You did not. You did not break her spirit nor her smile that lights up every room. You did not break the souls of a mother who gives the best hugs and plays the silliest games with our little girls. You did not break the woman who has made me a better man. This week has been extremely challenging, but also remarkably empowering and healing for me. I hope that my testimony has given strength and a voice to other survivors and can help others who have suffered to speak up and also heal from the and fear. For me, the more I heal, the more I can remember. And the more I can remember, the more I will never forget.
But the involvement of his children in making the case harder to defend is seemingly worrying the cornered music mogul. The music mogul is facing serious charges, and his family, particularly his children, are staying close as the legal battle plays out in public. While some of his son are named in lawsuits related to the case, the family remains together, at least going by what we've been to transportation and coercion, which is a key element of the federal charges. Messages between Combs and Cassie, both romantic and lurid, were the focus of the fourth day of testimony in a Manhattan courtroom. Defense attorney Anna Estevao read what Combs wrote while Cassie recited her own messages about what she wanted to do during the F-offs.
She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on to the lighting in the room to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with.
She claims the so-called freak-offs left her with sores, frequent UTIs, and stomach problems.
She explains how she used makeup, how she had to hide the bruising.
Diddy's defense team is arguing Cassie helped plan the freak-offs and even enjoyed them. She's been allowed to enter court through a private entrance away from the media. But cameras have captured her husband Alex arriving through the main doors. He's been there all week in support.
Are you proud of her for testifying?
We're on mile 40 out of 50. Really no preparation for it.
Alex, who's an actor and a personal trainer, ran this 50-mile ultra-marathon the day after he and Cassie got married 6 years ago. At the time, he dedicated it to his mom, who is also a survivor of domestic violence. It wasn't until 2023 that Cassie filed a civil suit against Diddy for rape and physical abuse.
Combs, 55, has been jailed since September. He faces at least 15 years in prison if convicted. And while Cassie, whose legal name is Cassandra Ventura, has said she felt compelled to participate in F-offs to keep Combs happy, Estevao pointed to message exchanges where Cassie appeared excited about the SUES encounters and raised the idea of having one on her own. In August 2009, Combs asked when she wanted the next encounter to be, and she replied, "I'm always ready to F off."
Cassie Ventura takes the stand for a second day in Sean Combs' trial. Ventura testifying about attending a movie premiere in 2016, covering bruises she says she received from Combs with makeup and sunglasses. Video of Combs throwing Ventura to the ground in a hotel hallway and kicking her was also entered into evidence. Prosecutors showed the jury 7 still images of sex recorded during his freak-off parties.
We're aware that they were giving illegal drugs out, that they were taking individuals such as Cassie and others against their will to do these acts.
Yeah, well, Diane, first I just want to acknowledge you can probably hear some yelling out here. People are super invested in the case. They are fighting over whether they think Diddy is guilty or not. So a lot of people have eyes on this case. But inside the courthouse here, the defense is highlighting episodes of extreme jealousy and violence in this relationship. It seems defense attorneys are trying to show that this was a toxic relationship where violence often ensued because of bouts of jealousy, but not because Combs was trying to coerce Ventura into those encounters. They've also tried to paint Combs as a drug addict. His lawyers revealed he overdosed on painkillers in 2012. They asked Ventura, were the worst years associated in any way with his drug use? And she
were in love for 11 years, and you believed he needed someone to take care of him. Is that correct? At which point Ventura said, at times, yes, I did. Most of the testimony today was spent rehashing previous testimony, but also putting in exhibits that show Cassie Ventura was a participating person in these freak-offs. Many times the defense would ask her if she wrote these text messages or emails, which she did confirm, and it showed sort of times where she was getting supplies for the freak-offs or saying she was excited about them. There were also several explicit messages, which we can't even share with you, but essentially she describes saying things like, I can't wait to do certain things with certain people outside of Sean Combs. There were other things that were mentioned, I should say, about drug use, both of them admitting that there was an addiction problem. And when I say both of them, I mean Sean Combs, I saw a lot of times nodding his head to this idea that they used painkillers.
Caught on video Cassie, and he testified that Diddy threw a sack of money at him in their hotel room afterwards to keep quiet.
When this video was shown in court, the reaction was palpable. Family members visibly reacted, and the jury appeared transfixed by the disturbing footage. This video has become a cornerstone of the prosecution's case, not just because it shows actual physical violence, but because it helps establish a pattern of behavior that aligns with the broader allegations of coercion and control. Interestingly, Diddy's legal team has
told her they watched it. You hear her very aggressively saying, I will kill you. And so the jury is very into this because they're seeing a different side of Cassie than what we're seeing on the stand with her very soft-spoken voice and demeanor.
Rena, what are we thinking in terms of timing here? Is there any sense of how long cross-examination is going to go? Because timing has become a big issue in this.
Or their redirect, but the defense has been pretty disjointed and meandering in their cross-examination, as we've seen. So it's unclear if they'll actually be able to stick to that timeline.
Their relationship lasted from 2007 to 2018. The cross-examination didn't have the combative tone of a stereotypical defense grilling. Esteval spoke gently, and she and Cassie seemed like two friends chatting at times.
So you're gonna have to just depose the testimony from the prosecution on direct with what we are seeing now on cross. And if there's any question in terms of raising that reasonable doubt, whether there were some consensual times or this was just regret rather than being coerced into something that she did not want to do at the time, that's going to be something that the defense is going to want to hit home to that jury. So you see the building blocks with this cross-examination in trying to raise that reasonable doubt, taking the narrative that the prosecution was able to get out from her on direct and raising those questions in the jury's mind, ultimately saying that she was a willing participant. And if anything, there may have been some regret after the fact, but it wasn't that she was coerced or forced into any of these acts. And I think that's what the defense is trying to do here, take it apart, the direct examination piece by piece, and we'll see that going forward.
The 38-year-old Cassie, who is in the third trimester of pregnancy with her third child, has held up well on the witness stand. She cried several times during the previous 2 days of questions by the prosecution, but, for the most part, has remained composed and matter-of-fact as she spoke about the most sensitive subjects. As the explicit messages were read,
hip-hop lifestyle.
During a break, Combs stood at the table, huddling with his lawyers, holding a pack of Post-it notes in one hand and a pen in the other. At one point, he turned to the gallery and acknowledged a few reporters who were studying his demeanor. "How you doing?" he asked.
Today, potential jurors were questioned and given a list of celebrities connected to Combs.
Okay, Fox 5's Lisa Evers was inside the courtroom all day, and Lisa, today was all about finding the 12 men and women who will decide his fate.
Yes, and a very interesting day and a very busy day here at federal court, Stephen, Natasha. A lot is on the line for Sean Diddy Combs in this federal trafficking and racketeering case. If he's found not guilty, he walks out of the MDC a free man. If he is found guilty, he's looking at the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars. Now, several dozen prospective jurors were questioned today by Judge Arun Subramanian as the jury selection process got underway in full force. Now, everyone being considered this week was part of an original group of 700 potential jurors who filled out questionnaires and they weeded through that number last week. Many were disqualified. So today, Sean Diddy Combs was in court wearing his court-authorized new trial uniform, which was a white shirt, a black sweater, black pants, sitting there, and glasses, paying very close attention to every single word that these potential jurors were saying, as well as what the judge was saying. Now, his lawyers, they did question some of them. By the end of today's session, more than a half a dozen were disqualified for various reasons. Now, Judge Arun Subramanian, one of the things he mentioned several times during the day, both the morning session and this afternoon session, was that jurors, obviously, many had already heard of this case, but the key point was whether or not they could base a decision and base a verdict on what is presented as evidence in the courtroom. Now, there were a number of jurors who were disqualified today because of being sex assault survivors or having somebody close to them who was a sex assault survivor. Also, law enforcement people, anybody related to law enforcement, people who had encounters with the criminal justice system, and there were also people for various jobs and duties that they did that they took issue with. But they were very careful about it. It's really, as one jury consultant told me, a deselection process at this point, where they are
statements that portrayed a very different image of who Sean Combs is. You had the prosecutors saying that this man ran a criminal enterprise for over 20 years, that he engaged in using force and coercion in order to make two separate victims engage in these commercial acts, these freak-offs that they did not want to participate in. And then you had the other side, which is the defense, having Sean Combs stand up and show a different side of him and say, look, he's indefensible in terms of committing domestic violence, but that doesn't mean he's a sex trafficker. That doesn't mean he engaged in racketeering. And trying to make this distinction and really focusing on the victims and trying to turn the jurors' focus to the victims and say, look, they were strong, capable women, and they made a choice. Now, I think that will ultimately be a difficult thing for the defense to show because of all the evidence the prosecutors in the opening statement said that they had, showing that actually these women really weren't making a choice. You have the video of Cassie where, Sean Combs is beating her, striking her, dragging her out of that hallway video when she was trying to leave one of these freak-off sessions. That doesn't exactly look like a choice. We also heard from the prosecutors that there are text messages where one of the victims, known as Jane, is saying, I don't want to engage in these freak-offs. I don't want to do this.
She testified she sometimes took IV fluids to recover from the encounters and eventually developed an opioid addiction because it made her feel numb afterward. Cassie's testimony on cross-examination was in contrast to previous days when she described the violence and shame that accompanied her hundreds of F-offs during her relationship with Combs. Cassie testified Wednesday that Combs raped her when she broke up with him in 2018 and had locked in a life of abuse by threatening to release videos of her during the F-offs. She sued Combs in 2023, accusing him of years of physical and SUES abuse. Within hours, the suit was settled for $20 million.
She is on the stand, called by the prosecution as a witness. We understand that as she is talking, Combs is leaning back and watching her intently. She described that now she is 38 years old, that she became involved with Sean Diddy when she was 19. She said that they were in a relationship for 10 years. They were consistently on and